Welcome to the Coda podcast. I am Rue from Rue Films, and in today's episode I'm speaking with Steve Ringrose, the director of Blue Ridge Films and the inventor of the MicMag. With over 12 years of wedding filmmaking experience, Steve has witnessed huge changes in the industry and successfully evolved his business and style to stay ahead of the curve. In this open and honest conversation, Steve shares his bold steps he's taken to adapt to the current downturn in the wedding industry, why leaving your ego at the door is essential for long-term success, and how a simple idea he had in the shower turned into MicMag, a fast-selling product that helps filmmakers discreetly hide the TX650 microphones. This is a brilliant episode for anyone looking to innovate, adapt, and thrive in the ever-changing world of wedding filmmaking. Let's get into it. Stephen, good evening, mate. How are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, dude. Even though I know you're quite well, I'm still going to give you the full Coda treatment. Even if I know the answer to these questions anyway, I am going to get them out of you. I'd
expect
Coda
nothing
audience.
less, and I am such a fanboy of this podcast that I want that. Like I'm so honoured to be here. So give me.
Give you the full experience.
Yeah.
So does this mean that you're going to miss out on an episode, or will you listen to yourself? What kind of narcissist are you? Let's see.
I don't know. Do you listen? I tell you, maybe this is the level for it. But when you send a voice note, and I don't send you. I send more voice notes than I'd like to. But do you listen back to your voice notes?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah,
at 1.5 speed.
Same. So I don't know, because I'm like, I just want to make sure what I said makes sense. So I don't know. Does that mean? I don't know. Maybe as a result of that, I would like to listen back to this. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I think, to be fair, if I was a guest, I'd think I'd listen back. I have listened back to ones where I have been a guest before because, like, you don't know what gets edited and not, do you? And when you're speaking, you kind of forget what you've said.
This is true.
Can happen.
I will listen back and think, did I say anything of value, and hope that I did, and then.
Well, let's get into it then. Let's squeeze some value out of you, mate.
Set the standard. Set the standard right there.
I feel like you could just reel off the answer to the questions I'm going to ask you anyway, because you're so versed in the podcast. But how many weddings do you shoot each year on average?
Typically, I would say 20 to 25.
And is that your sweet spot? Is that kind of area?
Yes, I would say so, because I also do commercial work as well. So, I don't solely kind of rely on the kind of income from weddings.
Yeah. So it's about getting the right amount of work in to work alongside that corporate work as well, which is definitely something I want to dive into. That's quite why I wanted to get you on here, because like you have, you strike a balance between the kind of work that you do. Or sometimes there's been parts of years where that balance has been shifted in different directions, hasn't it? And you've been able to kind of manage that. So that's something I want to go into.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for your weddings, what packages do you offer, and what are the prices?
So the kind of standard, I offer like one package, and that is a all-day coverage with 2 people, and that is a 4 to 5 minute highlights, a 1 minute teaser, and then the ceremony and speeches edited in full, and that is 2,500.
And so all your weddings, 2 people now then?
Yes. So this is something we can talk about, but yeah, for the most part, that is still the default. That is, so I've been shooting weddings since 2013 and have always shot as a 2. And it's only been a recent thing, i.e. mostly this year, that I've been a bit more flexible on that. Mostly, again, we can talk about it, but mostly because of, I think this year has felt like couples are a bit more budget and price conscious. So in wanting to be as flexible as possible to ensure that maybe I can kind of get a booking through the door when people have said, can you drop down to 1 person? Normally it's been like a kind of no, like I shoot as a 2. But this year I've kind of bent that rule a little bit, and about 40% of the weddings, so yeah, about eight-ish I think of the weddings maybe that I'm doing a solo.
And is that so for them to not take some money off the package price basically by going down to 1 person? Yeah,
basically, it's a price reduction thing, and in some instances I think it's the couple have sort of more expressed the desire to not wanting the 2 videographers because maybe they feel like that's there's 1 extra person maybe that they don't really need or want, which I get. So yeah, and I saw when we started out doing weddings, I felt like two people, at least two people, was a bit more kind of standard. And as the years have gone by, I feel like that's way less common now. And the standard is absolutely more is just like a solo videographer and sometimes two
Yeah.
people and beyond. But I think when we started out, it was more common that it would be like at least two people.
Yeah, because it's rare. Like, it's rare that I get a second. Um, I mean, like we've worked together quite a bit, haven't we? Like I think
Hmm.
I've definitely shot for you more than you shot for me. I think you shot for me a
Yeah,
couple of times.
yeah, yeah.
But
I think
like,
yeah.
it's because it's so rare that I ever have a second in. Although I do love it, but I know for you it's quite commonplace, isn't it? So if
Hmm.
they're like, so those times when they've like negotiated with you and you've gone down to one person, what kind of discount do you add to the package?
Typically like about £300 is
Yeah,
what I kind of say. Um, so yeah, it takes it down to about 2,300. But
yeah,
again, in the interest of trying to be flexible, I'm kind of almost willing to kind of go down to 2,000. Um, yeah, it's just it kind of again, it's feeling out the couple and whether or not I think that they're like an ideal couple, and is it worth bending a little bit more to kind of maybe get that booking over the line.
yeah.
Yeah, then I'm willing to do that.
And I feel that that's something that's not spoken about a lot. I don't think I've talked about it much on podcasts, so it would be cool to get into that. I want to go a bit more into your story before we do, but kind
Hmm.
of, I think people don't talk about what the things they do to get bookings over the line, right? People say, oh, I
Yeah,
set this price, and then we give the impression that everyone is booking us at that price no matter what. But there's
yeah.
always those bookings where we kind of like, I know we're really keen for it, so maybe we negotiate or something, or we sweeten the deal a little bit.
Mhm.
And I think that's a healthy conversation, isn't it? To have
Yeah,
kind of in
yeah,
this industry
absolutely.
and
And I
put that
think
out there.
yeah, absolutely. And I've made a big transition in terms of what I offer as like a kind of starting package and the price of that package in the last kind of 3 years. Yeah, that has massively changed. So I could talk a bit about that. And I think in like whereas I used to be very firm on pricing and the price used to be a lot higher. I'm trying to be lower and more and like more flexible on that kind of initial price, and then trying to maybe upsell a little bit as well. So, and hoping that I can kind of increase that maybe kind of to 3,000 upwards with like additional edits and stuff.
So kind of the mentality of get them through the door
Hmm.
and then kind of get, push the price up post wedding possibly, or yeah.
Yeah, basically, because I felt back when I did charge a higher price, I often felt like that higher price was because you never know. Obviously, when people inquire and you maybe have a bit of a conversation, a bit of a back and forth, you don't always know why they haven't booked or maybe they've gone with someone else. And more and more, I kind of did feel like it was the price,
Yeah.
and I just didn't want that to be the case anymore. So rather than kind of having that kind of higher, scarier looking starting price, my thinking was is that I kind of pull the package apart a little bit, lower the starting price, and then if there are couples that do have additional money to maybe spend on like longer edits, then
Yeah.
they naturally will. Whereas if you've got couples that maybe don't have the budget for that, I can still kind of get them booked in, and then it's still an extra £2,500 that I wouldn't have had otherwise if the price had
Yeah.
been much beyond that. So that was the thinking.
So how has that package evolved then? What did it used to be, and then to what it's got now? So you said the one that you deliver now is it a teaser film? Did you say?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, so
So
all day coverage, and then a teaser film, a 4 to 5 minute
what
highlights, and then
what's a teaser film, like a 60-second portrait
yeah, yeah, like
orientation?
60
Yeah.
second like film design for Instagram, sometimes in like a kind of portrait format, sometimes in more like a square format, but something that's a bit more suited for, yeah, always kind of
Yeah.
edited down to that kind of like Instagram friendly kind of size. So yeah, I don't know, I can't remember exactly when I changed sort of direction. I think maybe where are we now? Maybe 2022, I think it might have been. But yeah, prior to that, the starting price was around 3,500, and that I think similar. So it contained, yeah, two people, all day coverage, and then I think it's a 3 to 5 minute highlights, and then a documentary film, which is like the kind of more old school chronological long form edit, which includes this. It's all all in order, and then the ceremony speeches are kind of included within that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a one package that kind of gave the couple everything, which is why the kind of price was higher. But like I say, it kind of felt like that, maybe kind of post COVID, and as the kind of cost of living kind of reared its ugly head, it kind of felt like more and more that price was the kind of tipping point as to where couples maybe weren't kind of pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. Was just to kind of pull the package apart, offer a more basic starting package, and then
Yeah.
have the documentary edit as an upsell. Have the ability to increase their highlight film length to like more of a kind of cinematic film length to like kind of 10, 12, 15 minutes, that sort of thing. So just basically kind of more a la carte, and just give couples the option to kind of choose what they like.
What are the add-ons now that they can add?
So currently they can increase the highlights film, I think, to 6 to 8 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. They can add on a doc edit, and they can add on raw footage.
And what are the prices of all those different add-ons?
So the 6 to 8 minute increase is £300. The increase to a 10 to 12 minute is £800, and then a doc edit is £800, and raw footage is £500.
Nice. And when you deliver raw footage, is that because I guess you literally just send them a hard drive with the footage, are you?
Yes.
Because the doc edit is like the...
Yeah, I think I'm going to change that probably from next year, and I know you do something similar, and it's kind of almost combining the raw footage with the doc edit and basically making a sort of doc edit, because at the minute they're kind of edited. You do have that kind of the background audio from the camera mics and stuff, but there's still like a music track that I include, and I kind of ask, because it's more of like for the couple, it's more like a couple's film for them. I ask them about music choices and kind of incorporate music that they like and bands that they like and stuff as well. So it's a bit more personal to them. But I think, I don't know, more and more, I think couples are more interested in just having those raw clips with the kind of, we've been able to hear conversations, been able to hear background chatter, all that kind of atmosphere. So I'm thinking of maybe kind of, basically kind of merging the two and making like a raw footage / documentary edit kind of one thing, basically.
I've seen your like your documentary edit kind of films, and like it's basically a massive extended, like what I'd call like feature film or extended film, which is a massive one of them, isn't it? Because you got music going all the way through it. So
yes,
that must be quite an effort to edit, to put together.
Well, yeah, that's it. Like I think that was the thinking as well, that I wonder if couples are less interested in that anyway. So I'm kind of putting all this extra effort in to kind of create them. They are still quite straightforward. They're not massively creative. Like a lot of the clips, they're in chronological order, so it's just kind of putting them down, to the music. But it still can take like a day plus, depending on the kind of size of the wedding, to kind of do that edit. So the idea as well was thinking maybe kind of making that a bit easier to kind of put together by kind of not including the not having the music aspect of it, just having it, just kind of putting the clips in order, chopping off the kind of the shaky bits.
I mean, I it's a good process to go through when you decided that you wanted to maybe lower prices, to then look at how you're working at the minute and how you can possibly trim out time as well to bring to, so you basically making everything a bit more profitable.
I would say so. Like it's hard to gauge, because like I think back when I made that change to the kind of lower starting price, it did feel like a step backwards in a lot of ways. Although now with how the years have gone by since things haven't improved, let's say, in the world of the cost of things and everything like that, I feel like it was absolutely the right decision, and I think it was a smart decision. But like back at that point, my kind of average, I think that year, I think we maybe had this conversation, and I think I totted up, I think maybe the previous year, all the bookings that I had, and then you kind of divided that by the number of bookings to kind of get my the average price per booking. I think it was like 3,300. So which obviously felt really good, felt really nice. But then to go back, and kind of have that kind of lower starting price, it was definitely more of like a business driven decision, in the way that getting bookings through the door.
I feel like the context of your journey is kind of important to this part of the story as well. So I mean, the gear chat about your equipment, let's quickly go into that first, because I like to know that as well. So in terms of your cameras and lenses, what's your setup? because you're very different to me. In fact, I'm evolving to be a bit more like you now, I think. But yeah, tell me your setup, dude.
So three cameras on a wedding day, two A7S3s and a more recent Sony ZVE1. I think the name structure is horrendous. I think it's
So that's the
Sony
small. It's basically an A7S3 body in
internals,
like the sensor.
but it's almost like in a smaller body, like one card slot, and I think it's because it's a bit more compact, it's a bit more prone to overheating. But I've not really found that to be an issue.
It's got it all going for it.
Yeah, I've not really found that to be a massive issue. But so that camera mostly is intended to be like a C cam / a dedicated gimbal camera. So it doesn't ever really get used necessarily to the extent that it might overheat, I would say. So yeah, they're the three cameras. Also use again more of a recent addition, a kind of a DJI Action Pro 5. Which I tend to use as maybe like a fourth kind of like backup angle somewhere during speeches maybe and ceremony, and then a variety of lenses because we tend to shoot by default as a 2. There's like two of everything. So yeah, these days more and more maybe shooting on a 24-70. During prep and kind of during the reception. But outside of that, maybe you like on like a 55mm or an 85mm for kind of more kind of detail, kind of esque portrait type shots and kind of nice shots of good guests and stuff like that.
You've been a gimbal boy. Gimbal boy, what sounds like a slur.
Yeah.
For a while, right? But you kind of lent into the handheld. But are you kind of like a mixture of the two now, like handheld and gimbal?
I think so. And weirdly, the decision behind getting the Sony ZVE1 was to try and use the gimbal more, because prior to that, the dedicated gimbal camera was like a Sony A7 III, which, absolute workhorse of a camera, but the screen was naff, like it did 4K 25, so I didn't ever use it on like portrait sessions and stuff with the couple because I couldn't do any kind of like potential slow-mo. So the intention was to kind of get, upgrade that. And with the ZVE1, which just can do 4K 50 and beyond and stuff. So and because of that, I found that I'm using it more. I'm using it more on the gimbal during parts of the day that I wouldn't have otherwise. Like I said, during the portraits, during the first dance. Like before, I didn't really use a gimbal during the first dance. So trying to play when there is the two of us, especially trying to play into that strength a little bit more, because I think for a long time even though we shoot as a 2, I don't necessarily think that we made the most of it, let's say. We got quite comfortable with the way we did things, and now that having done some bits solo and kind of knowing what I can do on a wedding day just myself, thinking, okay, well now I can really kind of try and push the boundaries maybe a bit more when there is the two of us.
So like before, you were almost splitting the duties of a wedding day between the two of you to give yourself a bit of an easier day, whereas now it's like, right, if one of us can shoot this as a primary shooter, then we've freed up a whole other person and to kind of get extra angles and experiment a little bit more, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's probably what we should have been doing anyway. But I think we obviously just got, because we've been doing it so long, just got in the kind of way that we shoot, and maybe just kind of, like I say, got a bit comfortable in some aspects and didn't push the kind of boundaries of having the two people as much as maybe we could have. So
yeah, well, let's go into that story then. Let's go into how Blue Ridge Films, which is your company, how it was formed and the story from then till now.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the way the kind of company is made up. It's myself and two other guys, a guy called Tim and a guy called Nick. And we're all kind of limited company directors, but I run the company full time, and then Tim and Nick have like other jobs basically within the kind of video world. But that hasn't always been the case. Like for a good while, the business supported the three of us, but we kind of I'll come on to that. So, but we basically met at university, at Coventry University. We all went and studied there. We studied media production. And the intention was always, leaving university and kind of setting up and forming a business. Because we worked together at uni. We kind of did our final major production. We did that together as like a kind of crew. So we kind of just forged that relationship, and the natural next step was to leave uni and set up the business. And had grand plans of becoming like the next, I don't know even know if it's a thing now, but back then it was like it was called Tiger Aspect, which was the kind of big kind of company that supplied like all the big dramas to the BBC and ITV and stuff. And we wanted to kind of make this kind of commercial company with like a kind of storytelling element to it and create narrative dramas and stuff. Obviously that hasn't happened, but that was like our kind of intention. And then weddings seemed like a kind of a step towards that in terms of generating money, making money, because that seemed like a good that was at the time people said if good, it's a good way to make money basically. So that's how we got into doing weddings. Turns out I absolutely love shooting weddings, and even though going into them it wasn't necessarily because it's a thing that I really wanted to do. I quickly kind of fell in love with shooting weddings, and so it was never, quickly became the money was just like a benefit. It wasn't the drive and the focus. Back and when we first started, we had kind of full-time jobs. I worked in retail. I can't remember. I think Tim did some chefing, and Nick was also like in retail, and So in the early days, God forbid, we kind of went to weddings as like a three-piece. And had all sorts of kit, which again, looking back now, is crazy. Like we had like a mini jib, which I think was the first time we shot.
The first time I met you.
Yeah, back when you were a photo guy.
We both got a sordid past. I was a photographer, and you had a jib.
We had a Kessler crane, I think it was a mini Kessler jib or something, and like a slider and all that stuff. And our kind of whole our USP was like, we're bringing like this storytelling narrative, like style of filmmaking to weddings. And again, but to be fair, back then it was less common. But there was still plenty of other people kind of doing it like that. But I think the first couple of weddings we did was the classic. I think one of the first weddings we shot, I think, was my cousin's. So we did that for like free. And then I think we posted on like, it might have been UK Bride or some sort of bride forum, sort of saying like we're starting out and offering our services for free. So I think we've got a couple more that way. But then once we had a few in the bag, we got in touch with Groupon, which I don't know if that's still a thing anymore.
Right. Okay.
And we basically kind of struck up a thing with them because it was quite a long process, but essentially we kind of had our 3 packages, and I think that they offered those 3 packages for like, I think it was 45%, 50% discount, because that was the point of Groupon. You're kind of getting something for a big discount. So knowing that, we kind of priced them a little bit higher. So I think back then, I want to say it was maybe like 800, 1500, or maybe 800, 1200 and 1500, sort of 3 different packages, I think. So
and then they were getting 45% off that.
Yeah, they were getting like 45%.
And then there was 3 people turning up.
Yeah. But it was the best thing we did, because for 2 reasons. It allowed, I think we got anywhere, I think between 30 and 40 kind of bookings through that. So it allowed us to fill our calendar, which meant, granted, didn't make us a huge amount of money, but it filled our calendar and allowed us to shoot weddings, build our portfolio. And with Groupon, like, everyone pays, obviously when they kind of buy the product, buy the sort of the discounted thing, and then that money is then, I think, transferred to you within like a couple of weeks, basically. So I think it generated, I don't know, let's say it was around £11,000, I think. So it filled our calendar, and it allowed us to immediately buy loads of kit. So it was the best thing we did, and it just kind of gave us a jump start, I think, into weddings. And then from there, just kind of shot more weddings, got more referrals, all that sort of thing. So that's how it kind of went with the wedding side. So I think it was 2015. I think we went full time, and I think around that same time we had an office space in Coventry, and then I think that lasted basically up until 2019.
So was it from just wedding work that you were able to go full time?
I think predominantly, yes. We were shooting like, I think our highest number of weddings in a particular year was about 55. So we're obviously shooting a lot more weddings. Um, we were doing commercial work, and I think that was the intention, was especially trying to make it work as a three piece, the business of sort of supporting the three of us, let's say, and an office. We always knew that there's only so many weddings you can shoot, because the editing is all encompassing, and especially during the summer, like obviously, when you're shooting a lot of weddings, it fills your calendar basically. So we always planned to kind of grow the business, beyond that and stuff like that, with the commercial side. That was the intention and the hope, but it never really took off and happened the way we wanted it to. We plugged away at it for a good few years, but
That commercial side of it.
yeah, the commercial side.
Yeah.
Felt like we did everything we could, like join the local chamber of commerce, went to, I say mostly Tim and Nick, but I went to a few, but went to like early morning, like kind of business networking breakfasts where you kind of turn up with lots of local business people and rub shoulders, drink coffee, and have a croissant and stuff. And yeah, we had some good clients. We kind of we worked with a few marketing agencies in Birmingham, and that got us in. We did two like TV adverts. One that was our kind of biggest ever project was a kind of an advert for Selco Builders Warehouse. It was the kind of what they call like the bumper for Sky Sports Sunday Supplement. So it was like
No
when
way.
it went to an ad break and then came back from an ad break, you'd have that little kind of like silly ident thing like that we'd shot, and then it kind of go into the kind of program. So yeah, we kind of got some big jobs and worked with some nice clients, but it never really sort of snowballed and kind of started grew the way we hoped it would. It was just kind of coming in drips and drabs and that sort of thing. So that ultimately was a big reason we decided to kind of change the structure and kind of to what the setup is now.
What were your roles on a wedding day as a three piece, each person on the wedding, but then also in the post production stage? How did everyone get involved there?
Yeah. So on a wedding day, it was like two people, like it is now, like bride and groom prep in the morning, and kind of just, just kind of like splitting that coverage throughout the rest of the day. And then the third person was like almost like a dedicated drone operator. Again, looking back, we did not make the most of that like we should have. But yeah, like a dedicated drone operator, because I think again back then, Nick in particular, he was the only one that was kind of licensed to fly the drone. We had like a Phantom 4,
Yeah.
and it was a bit more involved, obviously, compared to what it is now. So he was the only one that was licensed. So he did lots of drone stuff, and then he would like be in charge of all like the prep. So he would like prep for ceremony, for speeches, get all the audio ready and stuff. So it allowed us to focus on the kind of more creative element of it. But again, it just thinking back now, there was a lot of kind of waste, I think, and nowhere near enough made of the fact that there was the three of us there. And then when it came to the editing side, Nick would kind of typically do the kind of ceremony and speeches. Then it'd be passed to Tim, who would do the doc edit, and then it would come to me to kind of do the kind of highlights film, basically. So that's how it kind of worked. It literally worked like that. So we all kind of had a hand in the editing side of things as well. Yeah, that's how it worked with weddings, and then we would have had obviously commercial bits to do as well. And then Tim was always very naturally good at the kind of production side. So when it came to like commercial jobs, he was really good, and he's very good hands-on in terms of like the planning and kind of liaising with the client and getting everything kind of sorted there. So he would kind of take on more of that role as well.
So I remember at one point you had to go VAT registered, didn't you? As Blue Ridge.
Yes. So that was a whole thing. So initially,
Because I remember this story put this fear of God in me back in the day, when because it nearly kind of like ruined the company, right? Is that right? In terms
of... basically, yes, essentially. So again, with the intention, looking back, with the intention of trying to grow the commercial side, we would have come to a point, I guess, where we were very much like constantly tickling that kind of VAT threshold, which back then I think would have been around 80 to 85,000. And so speaking to our accountant, we said, is there a way we can split the two businesses and have like maybe two limited companies, one that focuses more on the commercial side as like an individual entity, and then one that's just purely for weddings. And I think I've seen this mentioned a lot, kind of, in the groups and stuff. But at least from our accountant, he said yes, because the client base is completely different,
Yeah.
and yeah, basically you just have to do everything by the book. So we had to have two sets of insurance, two sets of accounts, because the weddings, the Blue Ridge Films Limited was already kind of established, that owned all the kit. So even to the point where if what is the commercial side is called Green Gorilla Films, when that was doing a shooting job, we almost had to like hire the kit to that company, so the insurance would
Right.
cover it. So we did everything by the book to make sure, if we ever got kind of, checked out by the VAT man or whoever, we could, distinguish that there was a clear difference between the two businesses. So Green Gorilla
Which
Films
there
was
is,
VAT.
because they are two separate businesses, basically. Just the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
people shooting it, but
exactly. And we
effectively,
and we weren't
yeah,
we weren't charging VAT to kind of couples and stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
that's what we did, and then that allowed us, again, we thought, in the eyes of commercial clients, being VAT registered is a good thing, and it was. I definitely feel like there was a bit, maybe when we were approaching potential clients, and they would just talk about VAT and stuff, and before we would have to say, oh, we're not VAT registered. Like, it's quite clear to them that, well, oh, well, that, no, they're not. They must not be too
you're
established,
not
because
a, not a
they're
big
not. They're not.
operation.
Yeah, yeah. If they've got three people, but they're not earning more than sort of £80,000, it was, it would have been a bit of a red flag. So that was part of the reasoning as well. So that was that. But then I can't remember exactly the timeline, but within about 12 to 18 months after that, we accidentally went over the VAT threshold on the weddings side, on the weddings limited company, twice, I think it was, because, again, inexperience. We didn't realize, even though we had a VAT registered business on the commercial side of things, we still didn't realize that the VAT threshold is a 12-month rolling thing,
Yeah.
rather than a financial year-to-year thing. And our accountant, was very kind of by the book, and as they should be, but that I can't remember exactly how, because they had access to our accounts and our ongoing kind of, because we use Zero for like our kind of accounting software, so they had access to that, so they could constantly see like our, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, basically got in touch to say, yeah, you went over the VAT threshold in November, and then you went over it again in February, so you're gonna have to register for VAT on the wedding side. So that was just, yeah, that was a
So
big,
suddenly you've got two VAT registered businesses.
yeah, two VAT registered
Yeah,
businesses. One that we really didn't want to be VAT registered, but we kind of had to do
yeah.
it.
Because you're basically
And
losing 20% on your wedding side. You suddenly
yeah,
lose 20%, compared to anyone else in that same, any of your competitors. Basically, you're
yeah,
20% dear, or you have to. The only way around it is to be 20% dearer, but you're not necessarily offering more value.
yeah, and that was the decision we made. We basically said we don't want to increase prices by 20%, so we just kind of kept them as they were, and just soaked that up, and then just thought, well, just means we've got to work extra hard on the commercial side, and try and kind of grow that, and just make it so that isn't an issue. And then eventually, hopefully, we'll kind of be able to either deregister, or do something else to kind of get out of this predicament that we found ourselves in. But yeah, it was quite crippling, and I think that made it, because the commercial side just didn't grow as we would have liked. We just kind of struggled on for a few years, and with having VAT on the wedding side, and not kind of getting the work in on the commercial side that we would have wanted. Yeah, it just got to a point where we kind of had that conversation as to, like, we've gave this a good try. Do we need to change something up, or change the structure? Which is what we did, and ultimately, got rid of the office, and Tim and Nick got jobs, and then I kind of took over the business, ran it full time, and that was a kind of unanimous decision. I think neither of them at that particular time really wanted to kind of run the business themselves. As a horrible of a situation as that was, they were kind of more, yeah, they more wanting and interested to maybe get jobs, and then work as almost like freelancers for the business when we did weddings, or if I needed them on commercial jobs and stuff. So, and I think, so this was 2019 that this happened. And again, looking back, the best decision we ever made, because obviously not long later, COVID came along,
Yeah.
and that would have absolutely been the end of us, I think.
Yeah.
If had we not done that, maybe to the point of not being able to recover, sort of thing. So, yeah, it was the best decision, and we're all, since then have been much better off financially, because we weren't paying ourselves a great wage. We were just kind of just plugging away and just hoping that, in the future we could kind of get to the levels we want and pay ourselves the kind of salary we would have liked. So yeah, we're much happier, much better off financially, and at least, especially with Tim and Nick, they had secured jobs, which I think was a big part, kind of getting a
Yeah.
bit older and growing families and stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so now the structure is, so you run the business. It's basically, is it kind of, are you still a limited, is it like a limited company and you're a director? Are
yes,
they still directors of the company,
yes,
Nick and
they
Tim?
are still
Yeah.
directors. Nick is like less and less involved these days. I think he's just really busy with his job.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tim's still quite heavily involved. And then the one thing I forgot to mention is that with that change in kind of structure, and knowing that it would just the business would mostly just have to support my income, and obviously with them, on a freelance basis, it was quite clear that I wanted to be under that threshold. So I think it was 2019, or maybe it was 2020. I can't remember exactly, but essentially I deregistered for that, closed the kind of Green Gorilla Films Limited company, and now the company is just Blue Ridge Films Limited, with Green
Yeah.
Gorilla as a kind of a brand of that. But yeah,
Trading as kind of thing.
trading as, and then yeah, deregistered for that. Because I know there are videographers out there that I know that but you probably know as well, that are VAT registered and are solely doing weddings and smashing
Yeah.
past that threshold and making a great business out of it. So it is absolutely possible. But yeah, it didn't make sense. Yeah, obviously accidentally back then anyway, and now for me now it doesn't make sense for me.
10 years ago, I discovered the cheat code to life. Becoming a wedding filmmaker changed everything. It's taken me around the world, it's introduced me to incredible people, but most importantly, it's given me the freedom to build a business that fits around my family. And I want the same for you. Cheat Code is my complete online course for wedding filmmakers, and it's everything I've learned all in one place. Shooting, editing, and building a business that actually works. You'll see real behind the scenes footage, proven camera setups, editing walkthroughs, and the exact templates and structures I use to create stunning wedding films fast. If you're already a wedding photographer, there's a module just for you, showing how you can confidently pivot from photo to video. Plus you'll get my signature LUT, pricing guide, email template, and the all-important cheat code data sheet, a tool that helps you make smart business decisions based on real data. Skip the guesswork, fast-track your success, and get the cheat code today. Visit rue-films.com/course and use the code RUE100 at checkout to get £100 off. So did you say like 40% of the weddings this year have been solo? You've been shooting them solo?
Yeah, I think so. This year's been a weird year anyway in terms of bookings and things. So I think I'm still kind of sort of taking the occasional booking. I've literally, like, in the last week, just took a booking for next month. So I think I'm on 20, maybe thereabouts, 19 or 20, and I think at least 8, I think, of those are solo.
How have you found that? Because I remember when we've spoke before, because I've always been a solo shooter, and you were dead against going solo, but then like you found that it made sense to offer a solo package where you can kind of get those bookings in through the door for those people that don't necessarily want 2 shooters, or you can put it for a cheaper price. So you've like bit the bullet and gone for it. How have you found that experience, and what have been the biggest challenges on a wedding day as a solo shooter?
I think I found it challenging for sure. It's almost felt like I'm having to relearn how to shoot a wedding, because it's so different. It is so different, and the biggest challenge I've found is kind of having to compromise. I think that's what I say to couples, because I think, like, if you go on our website and stuff, it's quite clear that there's the 3 of us, and I think it even before they inquire, it mentions that the package includes 2 shooters, so it's quite clear that that's the kind of standard default offering. So when couples, and they had the price list, and it kind of talks about the 2 people, then if that question arises, or I feel like it's something that I can mention because maybe because their venue suits it, or if they've got it all in one place, then I kind of sometimes do mention it as well as an option if I feel like it might make a difference.
Yeah, but from a default, you're not pushing the solo shooter. You're kind of almost
No,
saying
no,
we're a two shooter team.
yeah, I think it's early, especially earlier in the year when I was more keen to get bookings over the line because the year was looking a bit more precarious. And again, it's things are fine now, but as like a lot of us, I'm sure earlier in the year, it was all a bit like this year feels like a down year. So it was just doing,
Yeah,
yeah. I kind of was a bit more willing to kind of mention it if like it was a venue where everything's happening there, so it was quite easy to kind of take on. But yeah, whenever that conversation was had with a couple, it was always I always made mention of the fact that there would be a level of compromise in terms of what they get. Like I'd still feel confident that I could deliver a really great product and a great film and get all those bits that they would want. But there is ultimately going to be some sort of level of compromise. I can't be, everywhere at once. And when it comes to prep, depending on where that's taking place, I can't have that dedicated time with either of them. I might have to split myself between the two, that sort of thing. So, yeah, and that's what I've found to be the case when I've done wedding solo. I have found it to be okay for the most part, and like it's definitely more stressful. But yeah, I think there is definitely a big level of compromise because I'm just so
yeah,
used to having that second person. And I think outside of the additional coverage that they bring, I think the biggest thing that I always say with having a second is it's the stress levels are just like I'm so more relaxed and calm, knowing that we've kind of there's two of us, so we can kind of cover things from two perspectives, and there's a dedicated second camera for ceremony and speeches and stuff. So, and we can kind of make eye signals with our eyes and stuff, and kind of change angles if we need to, if someone's being referenced or whatever. And then, but obviously doing that all solo, it's all on me, and I've got to react and change things, just if and when I can, when it comes to the ceremony, especially. So,
yeah. 'Cause it's interesting because I've always been solo. Like when I have a second, sometimes I find it almost more stressful because I'm like, I think I don't know what they're getting. I don't know what they've got. And I just end up shooting the day like I would anyway. And then, yeah, get them they're just a bonus almost.
yeah,
But I think from your perspective, where you're so used to shooting a certain way, there then has to be a compromise because like you can only do it as a one person. But for me, like it's ingrained in me that sometimes you have to make those hard decisions that you can't capture everything. Whereas where you're a
yeah,
two-person team, you're probably almost more accustomed to be able to capture everything easily
yeah,
because like, there's always something to capture. Yeah.
basically. And I think again, I'm quite unique in the way that most people, when they have a second, it's usually it can often be a different person. Not always the case. There's plenty of people, husband and wife teams and partners and that sort of thing, that shoot
Yeah.
as they're dedicated to. But yeah, for the 10 plus years that I've been doing it, like 95% of the time, it's always been myself and then either Tim or Nick. So having that dedicated person that I know that we're kind of just we're so used to working a certain way, and I know exactly what they're getting and they know what I'm getting. Yeah, it's there was never that kind of work, that kind of thought of like, oh, like you say, having to worry about what they're doing, because I just know that we just
Yeah.
that's the way we work, and it works great. So yeah, definitely going solo has been an experience, and it has felt like relearning. And I think I even messaged because I had a church, because my general rule was that I would only do weddings solo if they were all in one place. And I kept to that for a while, but then I had a couple of couples that were quite keen, and I kind of broke that rule because they seemed like really kind of ideal couples from a style point of view, and they were really keen. So I did one earlier. I did one in May, where it was like multiple prep locations and a church and a venue, and I was absolutely stressing about it ahead of it. And then I think I was chatting to you about it, and I watched the cheat code, like the kind of how you set up for the church sort of
Nice
ceremony.
plug, Steve. Nice
Yes,
plug.
and genuinely, when I was setting up for that church ceremony, because I watched it a couple of times, and again, I've shot church weddings, hundreds of times before, but doing my first one solo, It just felt like I was doing it for the first time. So I literally had had your voice in my head. I went and I was like, okay, let's do the audio first, because that's what you say, get the audio down first, and then set up your cameras. So, and I literally had like your voice kind of in my head as I was setting everything up, because yeah, it genuinely, and it was invaluable to me for that, for that wedding, because it just felt like a whole new thing.
What setup did you go for in the end? What was your
So,
layout?
So it was a Catholic ceremony. So it was a kind of, I think it was all right, to be fair. But I think because with normally as a two, would have like a dedicated camera at the front, and then Tim would be at the
With
back.
with a camera operator on it,
Yeah,
right
with a
at the
camera
front.
operator on it, and then Tim would be at the back to kind of aim to capture Groom's reaction, and he would then kind of shuffle a bit more central for the kind of shot down the aisle. But the way you talked about it on cheat code was that you kind of basically do everything from the back, just yeah, and it makes sense, especially for church ceremonies, because for the most part they turn to face one another to do their vows and stuff, and then other than that they're just sort of facing forward when the vicar's talking, and you don't really need to see their faces in that moment anyway. So it makes total sense. So that's what I went for, and I used the DJI Action Pro 5. I kind of stashed that at the front, so it's not a very pretty angle, but it's a big wide shot, so there is something from the front, and then I just had a kind of close up and a wide from the back. And then I had another camera just off to the side. It wasn't rolling, but just so I could quickly grab and maybe use a handheld if I needed to, which again came
Yeah,
in handy because again, not being used to talking about how having to almost like relearn how to do these things. The photographer I was working with, she was absolutely lovely, got on really well, but I didn't even sort of have that conversation with her as to like maybe where she planned to position herself for during the ceremony. So when she kind of came over and said, "Oh, do you mind if I kind of duck in front and kind of get a few shots down the aisle?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." Obviously wanting to kind of just be that, whatever's not an issue, I can kind of cut around it. And then she kind of went down the aisle and kind of stayed there for a little while, and I was like, "Oh no, this isn't great." So I quickly kind of got my camera and kind of sort of went down the side of the aisle and kind of got another shot. But again, like because I'm not, it's that isn't a conversation I've ever had to have before because I've been at the front. Obviously, I'll speak
yeah,
to the photographer and say, "This is where I plan to be." Like during the entrance, I'll kind of shoot down the aisle and then kind of get off to one side. But yeah, having no, but knowing that I was in kind of full control and all the angles were kind of at the mercy of how I'd set them up. I don't know. It didn't pop into my head to have that kind of conversation with the photographer. And so when that kind of happened, I was like, oh, this is. I should have been speak. I should have spoken to her and sort of said like, if you want to
yeah,
be in a certain spot, I can move accordingly and kind of reposition myself so we can kind of both be at the same length and my shot
yeah,
isn't blocked. And ultimately, it was fine. But yeah, little things like that. I felt more time to like reteach myself a little bit as to how to
yeah.
do things.
I mean, church ones are for everyone, aren't they? But yeah, so for people that haven't seen cheat code, my setup for a ceremony is I'm at the front catching like, on a 50mm as the bride comes down the aisle, but then I move to the back and I have a wide and a tight down that
Yes, yeah,
aisle.
that's
But then
exactly what I
like
did.
my tight is like super tight, like 180 as well. So like if the photographer does decide to go venturing down that aisle for a pointless shot over and over again of just people staring forwards, I can at least raise it high and shoot over the top of them. But yeah, there's some. I had a second shooter the other day. Like me and Bronte were going off about photography second shooters. I had what he went down that aisle, just chilled there, man. He was just chilling. You're like, he's not even taking pictures. But like,
Yeah,
but I think I can't go and tell him without getting in my own shot as well. So I'm just like cranking that tight shot higher and higher, try and get it over his head.
yeah,
But yeah, it's all fun and games, isn't it? But yeah,
indeed.
welcome to the struggles now, Steve.
I know,
Solo
and
shooting.
it's funny because social events that we've been at, like kind of get-togethers of other videographers. I'd often hear you guys kind of talk about these situations you've had at weddings and stuff, and I'll be sat there thinking, I've had nothing like that. Like I've had like the most stress-free like summer. Because yeah, with the two people that I always talk about, that level of stress is so much lower, and I don't, even when there are sort of mistakes made or there's issues, I never feel, it never concerns me because I'm like, well, there's ways we can, with the two of us, and there's yeah, there's always ways we can solve it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never had any kind of major issues really. So it was always interesting to
Because
hear.
with
But like
two
I say,
people, you don't ever really have an abandoned camera, as
yeah,
Pete Lawson calls it. Like there's always, all the cameras are usually manned, aren't they, or easily manned.
yes,
A solo
exactly that.
shooter, you've usually got at least two angles where you're just hoping and praying. I want to move on to something which has been absolutely game changing for me. And I'm not just bringing this up because MicMag, which is your invention, it sponsors Coda. That's just a
Yes.
a convenient coincidence. And I was so jealous I didn't come up with this idea because it is just absolutely genius, and I'm so delighted it exists. But talk to me. So, MicMags, what are they, and how did they come about?
So MicMag is essentially it's almost like an add-on, an upgrade, let's say, for the Sony TX 656 and 660s, and it is like a little clip that sort of snaps onto the back of the TX in the kind of gap in where you kind of press the clip, to kind of put it onto a person, and it kind of slots in there, and it basically allows then for the TX to be attached via a magnet. So there's like a magnet on the clip itself, and then there's another piece that obviously comes off, which is also a magnet, and then you can kind of put that inside a person's item of clothing, put the magnet on the other side, and then it holds it in place. So yeah, it just allows you to kind of sort of stash it inside clothing, stash it inside like a top pocket, or on ladies and like women with like outfits and no pockets, obviously kind of attach it to them. And yeah, and it came about at the back end of last year, after Coda actually, and Russell Kent Nichols. Shout out to Russell Kent Nichols. His kind of awesome talk that he gave about having like a passive income, having like a bit of a side hustle that you could maybe look to do like some sort of product that you could kind of create or sell. And I think that just got yeah, I'm sure everyone's brains kind of ticking over as to, what can I do, what can I offer. And off the back of that, I think there was lots of little digital products that people were kind of releasing. And I think I was quite used to using the DJI kind of mics on the commercial side, kind of doing sort of commercial jobs and kind of miking people up that way using the magnet on that. And I remember using them for the first time. I think, oh, this is a great solution. It's a great way of kind of attaching a mic to someone. So I think it genuinely came to me in the shower in that cliche way. I genuinely think I can almost remember I was in the shower just thinking about. I don't know how it exactly came to me, but yeah, like I wonder if there's a way that they can kind of be mashed together. If there's a way that there's some sort of attachment that can be made for the TX and enable it to have a magnet attachment. So it could kind of, yeah, almost become like the DJI mic. So yeah, that's how it came to me. And initially my thought was to try and get someone to kind of design a prototype, like a CAD designer essentially, and then maybe take that manufacturing, like that bulk sort of manufacturing of it to some, abroad, maybe like China, like again, that classic thing of like, well, we'll cheaply get made in China or whatever. But essentially, I came across a company based just outside of Worcester that do it all in house. They do like they came up with the design, and I kind of spoke to them and worked with them to kind of create that design, and then they also could handle all the production of it as well. So it just seemed like the perfect kind of solution. And I was kind of, a big point. It was, is that gonna is the cost going to be kind of economical enough to kind of have them created at like a small scale and sell and that sort of thing. And yeah, it worked out great, and they've been great to work with. So I granted, yeah, maybe I had the kind of initial the shower thought, but in terms of the actual kind of design, that's their kind of genius. Like I kind of just went to them and said, this I'm on the MicMag Instagram. If anyone wants to go and have a look, on one of the kind of story highlight things at the top of the page. Well, I can't remember what you call them, but I've kind of detailed a bit of the production process through that, and I think I've put up there a clip of my initial video. I basically shot a video just on my phone, speaking to camera, to try and get across to these people that I was approaching to say, I've got this random niche product that wedding videographers use, and I want to make a magnet attachment, and kind of trying to get that across. So I figured I'm just going to film myself talking about it and showing them. So yeah, and off the back of that video, they kind of came back to me and said, yeah, we think we could make something that could work, and then here we are now.
That's amazing. So they did the whole thing. You gave them the idea, said, I need this solution, and they like came up with a design, showed it to you, then made a prototype, and it went from there.
Yeah. They basically came back to me with like a kind of 3D like CAD design, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's genius. Like the way it kind of, sort of slots into that gap, you twist it to kind of lock it in place. I was like, that's such a perfect solution. And then from there, they kind of created the prototype, which handily came just in time before one of the sort of socials that you put on that we kind of went to. So I took that along to that, which again was great to kind of show it to other videographers and kind of get feedback and stuff. And that kind of really sort of spurred me on to sort of make me think, yeah, there's definitely something here. Like, everyone there was quite keen. And from there, it's just been a bit of an iteration till launching it. I think I launched it at the start of May. So I got an initial run of 10 produced, final sort of 10 production units, and used some people as guinea pigs, yourself included, and just kind of sent them out to people and said, do you mind kind of sort of, almost testing these out? Obviously I tested them myself extensively, but the way my weddings kind of fell is that I didn't have enough of my own weddings at that point, early in that part of the year, to kind of really properly stress test them, say at an actual wedding. So that's why I kind of used a sort of crowdsourced that side of things. I said, do you guys mind using these at weddings? Obviously, feel free to have a backup in place just in case. But again, that process was invaluable, and off the back of that, I kind of changed a few things, and even off the back of the initial prototype that I brought to that kind of that social event, the size of it was increased, and the magnet strength of it was also increased, because even with the initial prototype it was very strong, but a few people said like it almost needs to be much stronger than it should be, basically, because if it falls off, then it's dead in the water sort of thing. It needs to be very secure. So went back to the manufacturers and said, like, can we increase the magnet strength and size? And that's what happened off the back of that.
It's been, like, honestly essential for me. It's one of those things I can't be without now, and I think I've got 6 of them. I've got the prototype that I was given originally, but then I've got I'm pretty sure it's 6.
I don't know what you're doing of them, but I feel like every now and then you're like, oh yeah, I've lost one. One's pinged off or something. I don't know if you're like sausage fingers or something, but I've generally found it to be all right in terms of kind of like keeping track of them. But I think maybe that's I appreciate they're a bit finicky.
It's just like it's not that I'm losing them; it's that I want more. I want to have at the point where I want one on every single TX that I've got, so it's just there ready to go rather than putting one on and off. So I've got one for every single one now. I use it now on every single groom. So I'll put it just below the pocket line. So I'm not hiding it behind shirts or anything. I'm just putting it below the pocket line and then putting the little clip on. So it's hiding the clip of the TX. You're just getting a magnet. But I've got the both blend sets. So you didn't mention that, but the blend sets are kind of coloured magnets, which you can, and they come in a pack. There's 2 packs, isn't there, with assorted colours. And it basically means then you can match the magnet button to look the same color as whatever suit or clothing the person is wearing, which has been amazing. And I tell you what, this is the new experience for 2025. Getting a MicMag out, putting it on someone, and then getting out the perfect coloured blend magnet it's a
nice feeling, isn't it?
You look like the most professional person in the world ever, and the amount of gasps I've had from people going, "Oh, that is so cool!" Like that you brought a magnet for the clothing, and I'm like, obviously it's just in the pack, but but I'm like, I've done this. It's not my first rodeo.
Well, so interestingly, so there's a couple of things I can say about that. So on the colours themselves, I did spend a while looking at wedding colour trends. So my plan is going forward is to change those sets year on year if they continue to be sought after or wanted. But yeah, I looked at wedding color trends for 2025, like, back when I was kind of sourcing the colors and stuff. So and then tried to kind of, get colors to match those as best I could, in the hope that guests would be kind of guests and readers and bridesmaids and that sort of thing would be, along those lines. And I think I've definitely
Yeah.
found that out from a personal perspective. I've generally always found a color to mostly match. But yeah, the blends themselves were more of an afterthought. Like, I can't remember exactly when they popped into my head, but they were absolutely more of an afterthought. But they've proved to be, also really popular, which is great. And the good thing
They're the
with those
best bit
is that,
about it, honestly.
yeah,
Like,
that's
but
it.
they know to match it up. And because I love them on theme when readers in ceremony. I reckon I've only just thought this, but I think majority of people giving readings in ceremonies are female. I just thought that.
No,
That
yeah,
seems to be quite often.
I
Yeah.
think you're probably you're probably right
I'm
there,
onto
actually.
something there, aren't I? I'm
Yeah,
onto
there's
something.
definitely
Yeah.
something there.
Content creators, photographers, and people giving readings are all female these days. So like, and when do you know when they've got like kind of like do they call them like spaghetti straps? You know, when it's like a real thin strap. And you think, where on earth am I going to put this? But now, and I just give it to them. I demonstrate it to them, and say, if you can just put this down, kind of like towards like chest area, off to the side, and then put the magnet on, and it's so easy. It's so much easier for them than trying to. Do you know when you're trying to explain to them how to use the clip?
Yeah,
And people
they'll
just,
keep
it's
on the
almost like their brain
outside.
don't work.
Yeah, like
Yeah, they
the
always
other
turn
way
it
around.
inside out. Like, yeah. So popping that magnet on and it gets hidden behind the clothes and it looks brilliant. Like it's just hiding these TXs away. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's added so much life to my TXs because they're so battered. The clips are so battered that I was like, I need to refresh these. And I did start the process of swapping them out for new ones. But now those old battered ones are getting used all the time. Now I've got a MicMag
Yeah,
whacked
they've
on
been
there.
been
But yeah,
upgraded. Yeah, and I think
yeah,
on that point there, like, yeah, I totally agree. And like being able to hide them inside kind of outfits has been great. And I think that was one of the big questions, understandably, from people when I first launched it. It was like, oh, isn't there gonna be like loads of rustling and stuff, and how does it sound when it's inside clothing? But in all my testing that I did before launching them, like, I never really found that to be an issue. Like, if you kind of moved around, like, I would wear it around the house and stuff, and I'd listen to it back constantly, and like be walking around the house, and yeah, moving from place to place, you get a bit of rustle, but nothing crazy, nothing that like
yeah.
the likes of like Adobe Podcast couldn't fix in like a second these days. We're very fortunate with our AI kind of sound like fixing tools and stuff these days, anyway. But like, especially when you're sort of standing still, which for the most part people are for speeches, ceremony, for
Yeah.
readings. I never really found any rustling, and I don't know what it is about. Again, maybe the TX6s they are just these magical devices, because I don't know if it's the design of them or the way. I think Chris Spice from Spice Wedding Films has kind of mentioned this, but I don't know if it's the way the kind of the when it clips on and then the magnet's attached, it kind of angles it ever so slightly, inside the
Yeah.
clothing, so it kind of just creates that slight bit of separation. I did initially plan to sell them with like these bumpers to help, but in all honesty, I didn't feel like they were needed, and like never felt like they made much of a difference, so I just didn't bother. So yeah, I've never found any kind of major issues in all the time that I've been using them. And again, if there has been a slight kind of rustling, or sort of the sound has been slightly affected, again, it's nothing that a bit of software can't fix, and it's never been bad enough that it's posed a problem. So
Yeah. I mean, with rustling, like, I mean, I get rustling on my TXs when they're just in normal pocket, like the old, when I put them in the old fashioned way with the clips, but it's because usually you're going on a pocket and it's on the side. And when you're moving, if there's any movement, it's usually going to move that side of your body. And if they're holding a microphone, like if something's up, they've either got a microphone in their hand or a piece of and a piece of paper in the other. So both those hands are going to be moving. So it's going to move the pocket. But with the MicMags, you can actually then put the mics hidden central to the body, and anything central to the body is barely going to move because people move like shoulders and arms and don't move the middle of the body doesn't
exactly.
move. So
Yeah, that's it.
it
And I
means you
think,
can hide it and have less rustle.
yeah, the more I've used them, the more kind of adventurous I've got with my kind of attaching it and placing it. And I've, for the most part, I'm now trying to, if I can, like put them on almost like where you don't even see the magnet at all, like hide them in such a way
Yeah.
that it's like they've just got a mic, attached to them, like inside their clothing. You don't even know about it. And there's times, especially when like shooting as a two, and it's been me and Tim, and oftentimes I'll turn up to the ceremony from bride prep and everything's kind of set. Again, that's what I love about having a second shooter. Everything's set and ready, and the ceremony will start, and I'm like, maybe I had a chance to kind of chat to Tim about audio and stuff, and then I'm kind of looking, and I'm like, is that green mic'd up? And I'm like staring at him. I'm like, I cannot see the mic on him at all, and I'm stressing about it. I'm like, Tim's forgotten, hasn't he? He's forgotten to mic him. And I get to the end of the ceremony, and I was like, where was that? And he was like, and he never tells me. And so
He never did, but it was there.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I think oftentimes when I've done it, I've put it behind the lapel. So it's kind of like so it's behind that, and then the magnet itself is kind of tucked next to the kind of the flowers, not the flowers, the kind of the buttonhole type thing. The buttonhole. So the magnet itself is sort of hidden by that, and then obviously the TX itself is kind of tucked behind the lapel. So looking straight onto the groom, you can't see anything. You don't know they're wearing a mic, that's the dream, isn't it? Really, that we can kind of mic people up and kind of get kind of clean audio, but it just looks like there's nothing on them. That's ultimately what we want.
Yeah.
So initially it's like trying to hide the TX a bit better, but I think the more I've used it, I think it is, in a lot of cases you can completely hide the fact that the subject is wearing an audio recorder.
And that's the absolute dream, isn't it? Like, because I used to always have in my bag a whole lav set up, like a Tascam with the Bumblebee. No, is it Bumblebee or Bumblebee? I can't remember.
I know what you mean. The thing that kind of sticks to the inside of the thing.
It goes to the lav and it hides inside a pocket, but it completely hides it. But then you got to put a wire around the back, and it was a faff. But it saved my ass a couple of times where I had like tricky grooms that were like, no, I don't want anything on show. So I've used that, but now that's not in my bag anymore. I don't worry about that at all because I know with the MicMags I can hide it no matter what. So my TXs that I put on the people during speeches are just a backup because I'm always going to be using one that's attached to the microphone. So what was doing my head in was that during speeches I've got these TXs on show, like visually looks gross, but there's only like a 10% chance I'm going to use it. So now at least I can have it hidden. So
that's it. With speeches, maybe you can be a bit more daring in that way and kind of get used to what is they're capable of, let's say, and kind of be a bit more daring as to where you place them. Like, because if your main source of audio is going to be that mic as it were, it's a good way sometimes just to kind of think, well, this is more of a backup, obviously, but try and hide it as much as you can.
If you are still delivering your wedding films on a USB or struggling to find a sleek professional way to showcase your work, it's time to upgrade your delivery experience with VidFlow, the ultimate online gallery for wedding filmmakers. With VidFlow, your couples can watch their wedding films in stunning quality on any device, including their TV, making it easier than ever for them to relive their best day with family and friends. Plus, with custom branding, easy downloads and cloud backup, you get a premium, hassle-free delivery solution that makes you look as professional as your films deserve. I've been using VidFlow for the last year and my couples have been amazed by its slick interface, especially on their TV. It's like having their very own Netflix of their wedding films. You only pay for what you need, and each of my 4K galleries only cost me about £15, and they stay online for 10 years, so it's a complete no-brainer. Join thousands of filmmakers who have already made the switch, and try VidFlow for free by using the link in the description. Take your film delivery to the next level. Now let's get back to the episode. Right, mate, let's go into some final questions now. So the one that I wanted to ask you, this is one that trips most people up when I ask them. So who would you say is your favourite wedding filmmaker?
I would say consistently for the last kind of couple of years would be Ben Tarngate. I think like his work is like so, like, without kind of blowing too much smoke. If you're listening, Ben, I'm not. I have got a picture of you on my wall.
Love you, Ben.
But like.
Come on the Coda podcast, Ben. I've been trying to get him on for ages.
Yeah, I'd love that. Again, his talk at Coda last year was amazing, and it kind of just made me love his work and the way he produces his films even more. But like his work is so effortlessly cool and stylish, and every time he put something out, he just, I don't know, he kind of just blends like kind of mediums and like different kind of focal lengths and stuff, and so like wow, and like sometimes he'll throw like a new sort of editing sort of style in or something, like with like flash photography or something like that, and it just makes it work, and it just feels like super cool, and like, and you know, the kind of weddings that he shoots and the clients that he has are so different to mine, but like there's definitely kind of like I've definitely taken a few cues from his work. So yeah, definitely Ben. His work is amazing. Um, Alistair King's like Ali King's like he's local to us, like and he's like a relative newcomer, I would say, to the industry, all things
Yeah,
considered. Like I think
not a
that's
couple of years. Like,
two
was
three
last year
years, I
his first
think.
full time year, maybe?
Um,
Yeah.
but man, already his work is incredible, like so good. And like this year in particular, like everything that he's been putting out is just he's like really kind of finding his style, and you know, just similar to Ben. Like I just every time I watch something of his, I'm like, man, that's good. It's like so cool, like so on, like just looks great, and you just know his couples are loving it as well. Like it's you know, ultimately it's not all not obviously what about not about what we think, and you know that's it's obviously nice to kind of get have your peers, you know, sort of say, oh, that's you've done great work there, but yeah, you can just tell like he's doing his work's amazing, and he's just kind of getting all those like moments that his couple's going to be loving as well. So
Two great shouts there, mate. And that came so easily to you. Usually, when I ask people, they're actually like, I don't actually watch wedding films.
yeah, to be fair, I don't like. I think and a big part of my output now, I think, like back in the day, it used to be like yeah, you put out your short highlights on Facebook when you know before Instagram was a thing, and that was the thing that kind of got you more work and got you more bookings. But with Instagram and everyone's relatively short attention spans, it's all about kind of the teasers, I think, these days. And
Yeah.
my equally short attention span can just about handle 60 seconds, I think. So, so that's mostly kind of what I haven't watched like a full length wedding film in a long time, but it's those teasers that I think you know that people are putting out that I'm kind of consuming mostly, and yeah, like as people like Ben and Ali are just smashing those, and that's what especially why I kind of strive to kind of do is kind of really kind of yeah put a lot of time and energy into the teasers that I do, because it's the couples love them. I think in this day and age, I think you know it's what a lot of couples want. They want that kind of flashy thing to kind of you know not you know, flashy is the wrong word, but so make something that you know really kind of shows that their wedding was a great time. Everyone had a really good time, and the atmosphere was really good to kind of show relatively quickly on social media, and you know it's that happy circle, that happy medium virtuous circle, that it also is the thing that I think helps promote us the best and get us more
Yeah.
work. So
Because you've been dropping some absolute banging kind of reels out, like the kind of which are your teasers, right, for your couples
yes,
that you just kind of put out there as well. So, what is your process for those teasers? Do you create a whole package first and then do the teasers, or do the teasers come before everything else?
yeah, the teasers I say are typically delivered within 2 weeks, but realistically, it's usually like by the following Wednesday, Thursday. It would be sooner, but like family childcare, Mondays and Tuesdays,
Yeah.
I have our youngest sort of thing. So yeah, Wednesday is kind of when I can kind of really delve into it after a wedding, and yeah, I kind of just I don't I kind of get into it as quickly as I can. Really, I don't even tend to really sort of sort the footage necessarily. I kind of will just kind of throw all the footage is obviously that's been transferred. I'll just throw that into Premiere, quickly go through just because it's fresh in my mind anyway. I would always have like a few things shots in mind that I know would work well, but kind of go through, kind of quickly, kind of pick out some favorite bits from all the footage. And then if I haven't already got an idea in mind in terms of whether or not I want it to be just the music, or if I want to incorporate bits of a speech or a reading or something, that usually kind of comes to me, I would say, as I'm kind of going through, maybe picking shots out as to maybe what I want to do with the teaser, because I try and make them as unique as possible, you know, without kind of spending too much time on them, and trying to keep it within the sort of style that I've sort of refined over the years.
Which, because you like couples that enjoy a party, right? That's
Yes.
it's. Well, you tell me. What is your kind of ideal clients? Who are you trying to look to attract to book you?
So definitely like yeah, couples that just want to have fun and that love a party. And I think when I'm chatting to people and they're kind of sort of telling me what they like about my work, our work. Like it is that it's the couples that are expecting to have a good party. Maybe they're their friends. They know their friends are kind of going to be good. It's going to be a good dance floor, and it's going to be like a really good
Yeah.
atmosphere. So I definitely think, yeah, over the years, as that kind of that style has kind of come to the forefront of our output, they're the couples that I've tended to attract, and yeah, basically just very laid back, very down to earth, like fun people. Nothing too forced or posy. Like sometimes I'll do portraits, and there won't be much like lovey-dovey stuff, much PDA. It'll just be like just two best friends, that kind of sort of vibe. Just it's yeah, they're my people.
And like, are you kind of like taking steps to attract those people as well with the work you show and kind of just the copy on your website, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. Like if you go on our website, you'll kind of immediately hit like, there's like a 30-second kind of repeating, almost like a kind of highlight showreel thing, and that a big proportion of that footage is kind of like party stuff. I think there's a shot which I'll never take off, and I think it's the wedding that we did at Mill Barnes, where it's the Holly the
Holly.
bride. It's like it's the one time it's only ever happened, and I'm like, I need to like kind of put it out into the universe. I want it to happen again. But yeah, she ended up crowd surfing, didn't she? Like she got on
Yeah.
stage with a band, and then somehow she kind of just got gestured at everyone got ready, and she just jumped and crowd surfed, and yeah, that's yeah, stuff like that. So making it very clear that like that's kind of what we're about. If you're
Yeah.
expecting that to happen at your wedding, we're the kind of videographers for you. And then I think the kind of tagline is I should know this: joy filled, love bursting, dance floor rocking wedding films. So just trying to again hit people very immediately with like, these are the things that if you're expecting a wedding like these are the films that we want to create, that for those kind of weddings. So yeah, and similarly, everything that kind of goes out on our Instagram tries to hit almost, when I'm editing, I almost like have those like three little sort of taglines in my mind. Has it, is there elements of love and joy and the dance floor within kind of what we create? And if the answer is yes, then that's kind of a good output.
You've hit the mark.
Yeah.
And something we've not talked about, which has just come to me, you integrate quite a lot of camcorder footage into your films now, don't you? So that's something I'm really interested in. And I kind of like the idea of integrating that. Our friend Aaron, he hates it, doesn't he? Like he could do a whole Coda podcast on just how much he hates camcorder footage. But what's the motivation behind the uses of a camcorder, and how do you actually go about using that on a day and integrating it into your films?
So the motivation, I think, probably would have been Ben again, because he's the trend
Tyngate.
maker. Yeah, Ben Tyngate. Apologies. Yeah, he is the trend maker, I would say, in a lot of ways for me. And I think it might have been him that I first saw do it, or at least, yeah, kind of on my radar anyway. And yeah, I think as soon as I saw it, and I have subsequently seen it in other wedding films and like edits, it just, I don't know, like Aaron in particular, his reasoning for disliking it is totally valid. He's like, well, in years to come, when couples are watching that back, they're gonna think, well, why isn't that shot, in 4K, like nice crisp? Why is it like this blocky, kind of really hard to see, clip of my whoever? And I get that, but I just can't help but feel that footage gives a very different type of feeling and a vibe and an emotion, if incorporated in the right way. Granted, not just like willy-nilly kind of thrown in for the sake of it. When it's kind of, yeah, used in the right way, it can kind of evoke like a very nostalgic feeling. It feels very different to everything else that looks very crisp and clean. So I don't know. When I first kind of saw it, that's the feeling it kind of gave me, and I just kind of, yeah, it just felt great. I loved it. So I think in a lot of ways, I'll probably use it because it is quite on trend. Like ultimately, it's that, not wanting to, be a dinosaur. Necessarily, not I'm saying anyone that doesn't use it as a dinosaur, far from it. But just if that's quite on trend at the minute, which I think it is, lots of kind of older formats are coming into, lots of photographers using film for photography and stuff like that. Yeah, you kind of want to be skating to where the puck is going, right? Is the classic, is it Wayne Gretzky and Steve Jobs famously said that you kind of want to be going where the puck is going as opposed to where the puck has been. So if that's what kind of people are wanting and liking, then it makes sense to try and incorporate it, I think. Yeah, and in terms of the using on the day, for the most part, I just have it in I have like a kind of like a satchel that I tend to have on me, and I have it in there. And I just, yeah, I utilize it. There's certain moments where I feel like it's better suited than others, and I always think of it as like the fun camera, and
Yeah.
something that Ben Tynegate. God, this is going to be like literally like just to be talking about Ben Tynegate, how much I love him. But he at Coda last year, his part of his talk, and it really resonated with me, was like how like different, even down to focal lengths, but different focal lengths or different camera styles can suit different parts of a wedding. And
Yeah.
like, I can't think of a perfect example, but like in my head, the VHS style is almost like it can very much suit the kind of the fun parts of the day. So I tend to use it quite a bit during prep, when like, the bridesmaids maybe are like they're having like the chinking and cheersing and stuff, where it all falls a bit more fun and casual. And so I wouldn't necessarily look to use it say during portraits and stuff like that. Just any moments where I feel like it's quite a fun thing that's happening, or like during the group bridesmaids and groomsmen group shots, if they're doing something silly there, or garden games, things like that. So because I feel like it suits that more than
Yeah.
like using it during like a serious moment. Like, wouldn't ever think to use it like during the dad reveal, for instance, or something like that. So that's kind of almost like my rule typically for using it. But I would like to maybe give it to guests and have them. It would probably feel more authentic with someone else using it as well. But for the most part, I've tended to use it. And then for like destination weddings, I think it works great. Like perfect example is like, say if it's a wedding abroad and they've got like a pool party or something, it feels like it feels very suitable for that, because that can sometimes feel quite not retro, but like especially if the that footage is almost like showcasing and making you feel like something's happened in the past. Then if you've got like the pool party, it can feel like it's the day before, the day after. It can kind of help kind of portray that like difference in like, this day, this is the wedding day, this is the pool party, and then the footage can help kind of differentiate that as well. So
Yeah.
if that makes sense, that was a long-winded answer.
But like when it comes to the edit, like so, because I remember back in uni when we used to use high 8 video cameras,
Hmm.
and we had to like go buy a firewire cable straight into the laptop, and we had to play it back
Yeah.
in real time and record it in real time, capture it in real time,
Yeah.
digitize it. Is that still the same process, pretty much?
Yes, yeah. So I've got two actually now. I've got one that uses high 8 tapes, and to capture that, I kind of plug it into the computer, and I think there's a few different programs they can use, but I just use QuickTime, and you kind of hit record, press play on the
Yeah.
camera, and then watch it back, and then just you have to kind of digitize it that way. But I've just recently got another one that's, I assume it's slightly newer, still old, from the 90s, I assume, but it's got like a little hard drive inside, so it basically records onto that, and then I could just plug that in. I had to buy like a certain USB cable that was like hard to find, so I've not even seen it before. It's some weird end that goes into the camera, and then I can plug that into the Mac, and then I can just copy and paste, copy the clips over basically. So it's a bit more streamlined.
Yeah, but before that's what's put me off a little bit. But I love it. For me, I think it's about giving it to the guests and then getting a really unique kind of like guard down perspective of the wedding day from them, and integrating that somehow. I think that's a beautiful element. One of
Yeah.
your latest reels. This is a bit of aside, but it just reminded me from when you were talking about the pool party. You attached the GoPro to a water gun, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. That was wedding earlier this year, and I'd had the DJI Action Pro 5 for a little while, and I'd mostly used it for like I say, like a fourth angle for ceremony and speeches. But I thought, oh, I'll take it along, obviously, anyway, to that wedding. And I bought a few extra like attachments, and thought, yeah, I want to try and incorporate it a bit more in a bit more of a fun way. Very much like again, they're quite in trend and their work's amazing, rightly so. Like in the kind of Roma Vera style
Yeah.
of kind of they've done a few films where they've got very kind of quirky angles. They did one recently where I love the opening was amazing, and it's like I think they were driving like almost like a Humvee or like a vehicle like in the desert, and they had like a camera which I assumed was like a GoPro type camera like on the floor, and then the kind of car like drives over it. So yeah, maybe with that in mind and with a destination wedding, you kind of have a bit more, I don't know, creative freedom when you've got stuff happening the day before and the day after, and you kind of play around a little bit. So yeah, just there was some tennis happening. I attached it to a tennis racket, and then yeah, they had like a pool party and they had these water guns, and I kind of used a kind of clamp to attach it to a water gun and I gave that to a couple of the guests. So like they say there, like, you know, using the VHS camera in that way. I was like, yeah, obviously I don't want to go around shooting people. That'd be weird. So I was like, you know, just set it all up, then gave it to a few people and said, oh, you know, can you just go around and kind of, you know, use this, and they loved it. So yeah, again, it's that obviously not the sort of thing I'd be doing at your typical wedding, but at least for that, it felt like it worked quite well, and the couple loved it. So.
And you did a time lapse as well. Was it in like a bar where they were all in a bar and it was like
Yes.
people coming and going? So was that the action camera or
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that
same.
like your main?
Yeah. That again, that's a great kind of like almost like a side thing to it that I've been using it for. Because I used to do more time lapses back, but you know, many years ago, and I used to use an older GoPro type camera for that as well. But just stopped doing it. But then having gotten this now, just yeah, trying to find other ways to use it outside of the ceremony and speeches. And it's great for time lapses. So just trying to throw that up somewhere, and yeah, just incorporate that into the edit.
You put so many different things into that 1 60-second reel, like all these, and it happened so fast. It's barely got any screen time, and the amount of setup it must have made for it. But it was such a dynamic and interesting reel. It was so cool and like really inspiring, mate.
Thank you.
But let's go into the kind of like let's round this conversation up a little bit. Let's go into these final questions. So, actually, this is a question I've not asked anybody. I'm going to ask you. What is your favorite lens of all time?
Probably the Sigma 18-35, which is an APS-C like crop sensor lens. So I can't technically use it anymore. They have brought out one recently, semi-recently, that's similar, but it was an 18-35 f1.8 lens. And so what camera would I have used that on? I think I would have used that on, so we used to shoot on like Canon C100s. So I think I used it on that, which is a Super 35 camera, if memory serves. So it worked fine on that. And I just adored that lens. Like it was my kind of the lens I used during prep. I used it like during like the dance floor and stuff. Yeah, it kind of stayed on the camera for like most of the day. And because it was like obviously low aperture, and it was just, yeah, even though it was quite a wide focal length, I just loved it to pieces. So I was sad when I went.
So what's the
full
equivalent
frame.
of that then? Is that basically like a 24-70? Like
No,
with the
so
full frame equivalent?
no, yeah. So the full, because they've brought out almost. I don't know if it's quite exactly the same, but they brought out recently like almost like the full frame equivalent. And I think I can't remember exactly the focal length. It's like a 28-45 or something like that. So yeah, it kind of gives it. It's around, I guess, like 24 mil, 24 to 50 mil, I think,
Yeah.
thereabouts. And they've brought that out, and I think that's similarly like an f1.8 lens. So that is, yeah, if money allows, that's something I'd love to get, because I think that's the spiritual successor for this full frame world. And I tend to favour shooting quite kind of wider focal lengths, like 35 mil and below, I would say, for a lot of like prep especially, and for portraits. So yeah, I think that's the sort of lens that I would love to use.
Because what I find is really interesting about your work, because you've been doing it a long time, and you've always shot quite wide, right? Yeah, for as long as I've known you, which is like quite far into your journey, it's been wide.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had the whole kind of prime movement, the 85 mil movement, which is kind of spearheaded by Phil White, and it was that all that happened, and now we've kind of got like kind of Roma Vera plus 2 films, kind of pushing the whole going back to the wide. Like your style is back in fashion.
I'm finally in trend. Finally in trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I think like when yeah, like say Rivera plus two, their popularity is obviously again rightfully kind of gone crazy because their stuff's amazing. Um, yeah, I kind of saw that coming down the line anyway a little bit, and just a lot of kind of more like upbeat, like not. And look, I love Phil's work. He's a great guy, and yeah, like but that the kind of a lot of the kind of current style now feels a bit like not completely opposite, but like a very kind of different to that, and more like
Yeah.
upbeat and lively. So yeah, and ushered in by the likes of Plus Two and Romavera and stuff. And yeah, I feel like maybe it's my time to kind of hopefully be in trend like by fluke, because it's the way I've tended to have shot. I think I was thinking about this recently actually, was that especially when it comes to shooting the dance floor, when when that kind of when that transition, shooting the dance floor the way I shoot the dance floor, when did that happen? I think it was like 2017 was the first wedding that I can think of where I kind of just changed tact a little bit on that.
So how do you shoot the dance floor? You know, I know this very well because we're always talking about the Steve pogo stick. But
Yeah,
so
yeah. So
for the
I bring a
listeners,
pogo stick
explain.
to weddings. I bring a pogo stick to weddings, and I
You
bounce.
you are you're famous for your dance floor footage, which is very immersive, very lively. How do you go about capturing that dance floor?
So yeah, the I like the dance floor first and foremost. So yeah, where possible, I have lights up so that there's a bit of like contrast and like a bit of light hitting people's faces and stuff. But always do that in a way that try and keep it like not overbearing. So make sure that the lights are kind of tuned into the kind of room lights. So like a kind of quite a warm temperature, like 3200 Kelvin or something, and trying to keep them like tucked away and as almost like as low as I can kind of get away with, whilst also having that like bit of contrast and stuff. So it's not, people aren't going to walk in and feel like, oh yeah, this dance floor's lit, but obviously it is. But yeah, so it doesn't feel like it. So I aim to do that like sort of half an hour before the first dance. So again, if people are kind of coming into the space, they can see it. This is the norm to them. They don't know, they don't think, they won't
Yeah.
even think, oh, the videographer's lit this scene.
Which lights are you using on the dance floor?
So for a long time, I was using ones actually that I got that you were using, that I kind of picked up from shooting with you, and
The
they
Young
were
Neuros
the
YN
young, yeah, the
300s.
young Nero.
Yeah.
That's it, the young Nero YN 300s, and I still have them, and I still probably will use them quite a bit. But I've recently got the Aperture 60Xs, I want to say, relatively inexpensive. I think they're, well, not compared to the young Neros, but for lights of a similar thing, I think they're, I want to say like £180, maybe £200 a light. But from the commercial side, I've got like another Aperture light that we use as like a kind of key light for interviews and stuff. And I've used that for a long time and loved it. And the great thing about that is that it has app control. So they have like an app called Sidious Link, and you can kind of connect to the light, and you can kind of change the intensity, you can change the color temperature, you can switch it on and off and stuff. So what I wanted, and that's what I liked about the Young Neros, is that you can kind of have them set. They've got a remote, so you can turn them off, turn them back on if you need to, and you can also increase and decrease the power strength basically. But yeah, I've got these Aperture ones recently, and yeah, have been enjoying them. And they kind of run off batteries, and I can kind of control them all via the app. And I found them to be less intrusive, because the way I kind of put like I forget what the attachment's called, but they've got like a Bowen's mount, but you can kind of put the attachment that they come with. I
Like
don't
a
know what it's called.
snoot.
Not a snoot, but it's like a kind of it's almost like a kind of mirror, not a mirror, but it's like a kind of just like a silver coating inside. So I think
Yeah.
it's a pretty standard attachment. But what that helps to do, I've found, is kind of almost like mask the light a little bit. So if you're looking at, if you're off angle, you can't even really see necessarily there's light coming from that until you're looking at it
Yeah.
maybe directly. So still allows like good coverage of the dance floor. But yeah, I think they don't feel quite as like in your face as the Young Neros, because they're more like a kind of like a flat panel light, aren't they? So
Yeah.
no matter where no matter where you're looking at them from, you can just see it's like a big flat panel light that's kind of flooding the dance floor. Whereas these are a bit more direct, but still have good coverage. So yeah, so they've been really good. I've been enjoying them.
Where
Yeah,
do you
so
position them? What's your layout for the lights?
I'd say typically depends on the dance floor and if it's like a bit tighter or if there's a big lots of space. If I can kind of get them quite far away from the dance floor there and get them high up and kind of shooting more direct, then I will. So again, it's all just trying to hide them in a way that people don't feel like the dance floor is
But
lit.
like, are you shooting into them, or are you putting one in each corner to cross light?
Yeah,
Or
normally one in each corner. I would say, um, yeah, one in each corner. So like maybe one by the band and DJ, and then one opposite to that. So no matter where I'm kind of moving around, there's still kind of good coverage because you'll always get kind of pockets of people that are like dancing near the kind of DJ in the band. Then you'll have the kind of ones that are dancing a bit further into the room and stuff. So if I could try and get good kind of coverage kind of across all of those people,
yeah,
I can still kind of make that footage look how I want it to look basically when it comes to the dancing. Because again, a big part I think of why people book us these days is because of that footage and that kind of style. So I always feel like that kind of need to make sure I kind of nail it.
and how are you shooting it? What is your settings for actually shooting it? You got your lights up because you want a bit of
Yes.
shape and a bit of definition in the footage, but then the actual capturing itself, because it is quite a unique style. To looking at your films, the dance floor stuff really does stand out.
Yeah, yeah. So handheld, uh, and then I turn off the stabilization on the camera. So there's like not fighting against the camera in any way. It's not going to be like trying to stabilize the shot. Completely everything turned off. The lens I tend to use is the Tamron 17 to 28, so very wide. And then I always keep it at 50 frames and keep the shutter speed at like 100, because I think that helps with the kind of trying to kind of get across that high energy, having the higher shutter speed, to kind of keep that kind of like almost like jittery, slightly jittery footage, to help kind of bring that kind of feeling of like energy across, which again is why the lights are important because if you're shooting at 100 shutter speed, you naturally need a bit more light unless you want to ramp the ISO. So yeah, and then just basically get involved, bounce around, try and give movement to the camera as much as I can. I don't shy away from trying to keep shots steady. If anything, on the opposite, like I think a lot of the time you can make a not so busy dance floor look quite busy if you're quite creative with the way you kind of get your shots and stuff, and then like adding movement with your hands with the camera yourself. You can make someone just like doing a sort of slight little dance. You can make it look like they're going crazy because you're kind of adding that
Yeah.
movement and you're making it look like they're like going nuts sort of thing. So there's definitely ways again, thankfully I tend to, it's been a while since I would say I've had like a dead dance floor. Like most weddings, like they're pretty packed and busy. But yeah, even the times where it's like not so as busy, I can still make it look quite lively, I think.
Do you get in nice and close in there? Like you must do shooting at those wide.
Yeah, I'd
Like
say
you get.
so.
Are you worried about that? Like sometimes
No.
on wedding days, I feel like I'm just standing like a sore thumb. What's your approach to make sure that you kind of can get good footage, but not put people off having a good time?
Yeah, no, I think I get because I kind of get involved a little bit. I dance, I move. Not not a dance is a loose word there. I'm not a dancer by any means, but I kind of move with the music and I'm moving with people and stuff. And I never overstay my welcome. That's always my thing as well. Is that like I get the shot I need, or if I see a couple kind of like doing, it's always kind of keeping an eye out, isn't it? Trying to find those kind of pockets of people that are about to do something and like knowing when the kind of the beat of the song's going to come in and like where things are going to happen, trying to keep an eye and anticipate that. And I'm always like quick to kind of maybe get a shot of someone, and then I move away. I kind of will get that shot and I'll move to the other side of the dance floor perhaps. So I'm never kind of overstaying my welcome. I'm never kind of making people think, oh, that guy's filming me, even though I am, and I'm sure they do notice it, but just trying to be, yeah, kind of get that shot like a photographer almost, like with flash and just like move from one spot to another, constantly moving. So I'm not kind of like putting people off sort of to make them feel uncomfortable basically. So I do get quite
Yeah.
close, but because I'm the weddings I tend to do have big busy dance floors. I don't know. I just find I'm constantly faced with just so many people dancing, and just without a care in the world, as it should be, you know, dancing like no one's watching. So, you know, me with a camera is just, they couldn't care less. They're just having the time of their lives, and I'm just there and I'm just getting involved and trying to capture that. So yeah, I never really feel like I'm kind of, you know, putting people off for the most part, I would say.
No. Because like I said, I've worked with you quite a few times, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Like, you're in there just dancing along, and you are basically going around like a guest. And the thing is you're a tall guy, right? You're a really tall guy, so it's not like you could be hidden anyway.
No, this is true.
But like you get in there, you kind of you're part of the vibe, and I think that's really important. Like you said, is that the fact that you are kind of getting in there and dancing. And it's similar. We had like Catherine on a podcast, and she's there singing in the hymns in church. So it's your equivalent of that, isn't it? Getting on the dance floor, dancing along. Because I think it's easier to point a camera at someone if you're dancing as well, because you're both in the same vibe. Then it's not it doesn't feel like you just perform for me, monkey. If you're dancing as well, it kind of like you bounce off each other a little bit.
Exactly, and it's my favorite part of the day. I love shooting the dance floor. Like I get real FOMO. Like it's, you know, obviously I have a home and a bed to go to, so there's always a time I'm like, I feel like I need to leave now, but I get such FOMO because I'm like, if I leave now, something crazy is going to happen. So I genuinely enjoy it. So maybe that comes across, and like you say, that energy, and maybe guests are like, oh yeah, he's not some weirdo that's just filming me. It's like I'm just getting involved and enjoying myself. So it works well. And like I say, it is a big part of our output now, is that kind of dancing kind of party style.
To be fair, if you weren't like a narcoleptic that just randomly falls asleep out of the blue, which I've witnessed, I'm pretty sure you'd stay there till the very end of every single wedding, wouldn't you?
It's true. Well, yeah, obviously, you know, I'm hopefully getting that under sorted now. My recently diagnosed sleep apnea. So let's hope my ability to fall asleep at a drop of a hat, it will be the thing of the past.
I really want to give some people some context for this. Like, I was driving, you were next to me chatting away, and you were backing up the footage onto a laptop, and you were talking, and just randomly just slumped to the side, fell asleep. Laptop slid off his knees, wakes up 20 minutes later and just carried on talking like carried on the conversation. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's I'm guilty of falling asleep during conversations with I'm awful for it. And this is obviously not a podcast to talk about sleep apnea, but having been recently diagnosed and understanding it a bit more, obviously it's quite common. And so that's something I'm gonna hopefully get under control.
Oh man, But it's gonna be the journey, in it. But yeah, good luck with that, fella. I've seen the equipment you've got for it. It's quite intense. Right, so the final question, dude. Thank you so much for your time, mate. Thank you. Thanks for putting it on me.
Thank you for having me. Like I say, such a big fan. So this is dream come true, mate. Dream come true. It's the bucket list.
Shut up, Steve.
Yeah, genuinely. I've been well excited. When you messaged me to ask, I was like, oh my god, the day's finally come.
It's fine. Oh, mate. So what were the biggest light bulb moments in your career so far, when something suddenly made sense and helped you progress or find the path you wanted to take?
So this, again, being a fan of the podcast, I love this question, and it will be a very particular wedding back in 2017, and that was very specifically the wedding I remember that I kind of first started shooting the dance floor the way I sort of shoot the dance floor. I kind of took the camera on. I think we lit the dance floor, and I think I took the camera on. Prior to that, I think I shot it very static on a monopod. And for whatever reason, I think this dance floor was really busy, and like they were a really fun, cool couple. And it just felt, I don't know. I can't remember what spurred me to do it, but I kind of took the camera, went handheld, started adding a bit of movement, and like the dance floor was really crazy and busy. It was shooting alongside our mutual friend Alex Miller, and I'm sure he remembers it well. And it was a really good dance floor. Yeah, and just getting back and looking at the footage and just thinking, yeah, this looked great. Like giving that energy to the kind of dancing, really kind of connected with me. And I was like, yeah, I want to kind of pursue this and do this more. And then over the years, I've just kind of always kept that as a bit of like a North Star of like what I want, the wedding sort of style to be, and to kind of focus on, have that kind of party element to it. So it was definitely, that wedding was the kind of almost like the turning point, I think, where I can say that I've started to find my style and kind of work towards that, I would say. So yeah, I think I think that ultimately is what everyone wants to try and do in when shooting weddings, right? They want to kind of find their style, find their people, and I think, yeah, from that wedding, that's kind of when that sort of journey started.
And that's amazing, because that is definitely something I've picked up from, from knowing you for so long, and watching your work like evolve and change. Like, and that was such a key element to how you really lent into the fun and shooting things in an immersive and kind of high energy way. It's been a beautiful thing to see you kind of connect with your work. And 'cause I think, like with weddings, when we first start, we basically look at what's out there and think what weddings are, and we start making work based on what we think weddings should be, right? But
Yeah.
bit after bit, we start to think, no, what do we love about weddings? What do we love about, what do we want to show? And when you find that, which I think quite a lot of people probably don't, but it was so obvious with you when you did find that, and then the work starts to, I just elevates, just gets so much better, because it's got a deeper connection with who you are as a person and your personality, rather than just, trying to become a wedding filmmaker.
That's it. And I think, like, I don't know if it was, I love live music, so I go to see loads of bands, and I'm really like into just quite a young genre these days. I think because I feel quite old sometimes at gigs, but I'm really into pop punk. So I think maybe it's from that, like a lot of like music videos and live videos of these bands. There's always really high energy. There's lots of like crowd movement and like moshing and crowd surfing and stuff. And I've always loved that. I always love getting involved in the crowd, and even though I'm like pushing 40, like I'm still, love getting involved and love jumping around. So it's almost just like selfishly taking that love of that kind of part of my life, I guess, and maybe how can I bring that to weddings? And it's basically, the dance floor, and just trying to make sure that every wedding that I kind of shoot has like a really kind of high energy, busy, cool dance floor, which is most often the case these days. So I can just kind of, basically get involved every time and enjoy myself. And I think so. And I think, like I say, that's how the styles evolved. And the couples that are, I think more this year more than ever, actually, I had a call with a couple earlier today who are like, we were chatting away, and I was like, so like in tune with like what they want from what they want their wedding to be like, and what they want from their wedding film, and kind of how the matching of like my work and what their wedding. And I felt like I found that more so than ever this year. Like every wedding I've done, it's felt like such a perfect match. And so it's been a slow process. If I think back to 2017 was when I first started, maybe sort of starting to shoot that way. There's definitely, in years past, there's always a good chunk of couples that have felt like kind of ideal couples, but then some of us that are maybe just booking me because I'm the videographer that they found, or they got referred or whatever. But this year more than ever, I feel like I'm finding like near enough every couple, it's like a perfect match in terms of style and stuff. So, which is again, it's what we all want. So
it's the dream, isn't it? And it's great advice as well. The fact that you've brought in elements from your personal life, like your kind of tastes and your like, your love of live music, how you brought that into your wedding films, for people to bring part of their lives and part of their personalities, bring them into their films. That's how you find a unique voice as a wedding filmmaker, isn't it? Not necessarily chasing after certain trends or anything. Bringing a bit of you into your films, that's what's going to make them unique. And you're certainly doing that, man.
That's exactly it. And I think that is why I will continue to love shooting weddings. Because I have found that kind of style that I love, and it makes it all the more fulfilling. So,
well, mate, thank you so much for joining me. And
thank you for having me.
Even though we chat most days anyway, it's nice to have a formal conversation and deep dive into you as a filmmaker and as an inventor. Can we call you that? Yes, we can, right? Absolutely.
I don't know about that. Like I say, I always get to the point. I was like, I came up with the idea. They kind of brought it to life. So, but if people want to call me inventor, I'll take it.
You're basically Steve Jobs, mate. You're Steve Jobs.
Don't say that. That will get me excited. He's my my idol. So,
yeah. Right, but mate, I love you, dude. Thank you ever so much for our chat tonight, and I'll catch you soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. To find out more about what we have to offer in terms of our conference and also our educational resources, visit coda-conference.com.